Let's move on to one of the worst presidential runs of all time. 1872, Horace Greeley takes on Ulysses S. Grant.
Also interesting about 1872, the same year there was a minor candidate who was the first woman to ever run for president, Victoria Woodhull. So I think she might have taken away, 0.1% of the vote from Greeley, thus upsetting everything.
So Mr. Horace Greeley was, during the war, staunchly pro-union, favored emancipation. He was I want to say, was he the editor or the owner of the New York Tribune? I believe he was the owner.
Yes.
He coined the phrase, "Go West, young man."
He did.
Anyway, yes, he did. He is not a Democrat. He is a liberal Republican. The liberal Republicans were a faction of the Republican Party that was appalled by the corruption of the Grant administration. But your liberal Republicans, while appalled by the corruption of the Grant administration, do favor black equal rights. In fact, it could be argued in some ways, at least on their upper leadership, favor it even more than Grant. So the Democrats, this is their last time the Democrats did not field a candidate. It's the last time. They will decide to back Greeley's run. I think this is one of the dumbest maneuvers in presidential political history because Horace Greeley had spent decades as somebody who insulted Democrats. The New York Tribune, the most popular newspaper in America, arguably, definitely one of them, was a Republican newspaper. This literally is like if the Democrats right now decide the best way to beat Trump was to nominate Ted Cruz.
Or if they nominated Michael Bloomberg, which there were Democrats who voted for him.
This is true, but, I mean, try to think about nominating somebody. Okay, no, actually, I'm sorry. Ted Cruz isn't the right idea. No, Rupert Murdoch. They nominated Rupert Murdoch. That's what it's like.
Rush Limbaugh.
Let's get the head of Fox. Rush Limbaugh, even better. We're going to nominate Rush Limbaugh to take on Donald Trump. That's what we're going to do.
Yeah, Greeley seems like a fairly ridiculous candidate to me. Reading about his background, I have no idea what the fuck they were thinking, whether we're talking about the liberal Republicans or the Democrats. I don't see what they thought they were going to accomplish with him at the helm.
It's an absolute disaster, man. It gets very confusing at the local level. People are like, am I voting Democrat? Am I voting Liberal Republican? They never quite figured that out because they never formed a true fusion. You've got guys like Beauregard who fucking hates Republicans, and he endorses Greeley. And you're just, it's a cold political tactic for a guy like that. Greeley's takes the stump. He's quite bad at it. He gets labeled with a thing, what the Republicans say, like free love and free farms and all that. Also, Grant way out fundraises Greeley, and this is important. The Grant administration is really when corporations are coming into their own. Grant fully embraces the wealthy of America, like Stephen Jay Gould and the rest. They're dining with him all the time. So Grant is really your first corporate president. And I would actually argue 1872 is where the Republican Party becomes a rich man's party in many ways. Anyway. Yeah, it ends in a landslide. Grant fucking buries Greeley. A lot of Democrats don't even vote for Greeley because they're like, wait, you want me to vote for that guy who spent his whole career mocking us?
Yeah, and ironically, despite being a newspaper man who had written quite a few negative articles in his time, Greeley got absolutely annihilated by the Grant propaganda machine. The Republican machine accused Greeley of everything from treason to being a Klansman. And then the cartoonist Thomas Nast became a Grant supporter and caricatured Greeley into the dust.
Oh, God, Thomas Nast.
Yeah, there was a cartoon where Greeley is shaking hands with John Wilkes Booth over Lincoln's grave. And there's another one where Greeley shows up to the jail and pays the bail for Jeff Davis. So basically, they're bringing up the Civil War and saying that Greeley was, basically a doughface or a copperhead.
Which he's not, although the Jeff Davis one should be mentioned because Greeley was one of the men who supported don't prosecute him for treason, let him out of jail. It's a reconciliation measure. Okay? Now, I don't want to get into the intricacies of that. There's some debate that they didn't want to take Jeff Davis to court because they thought they'd make a martyr out of him. Keep something in mind, too. Jeff Davis was upset he didn't go to court. He wanted to go to court. He believed that in the court of law, he could make his case and kick ass. He was looking for it. So, funny enough, Jeff Davis was happy to be out of jail, but also a bit disappointed when they let him out. So
yeah,
Greeley was
like all these other assholes. Jeff Davis was a lawyer, so he thought that he was the best legal mind of all time.
Exactly. And, I mean, but the thing with Greeley, like shaking hands with John Wilkes Booth, absolute bullshit. I mean, that is such a slander against Greeley. I mean, Greeley was, like I said, for the end of slavery, pro-union the whole time. But, you get a guy like Beauregard supporting you, and you're like, oh, Beauregard, the man who fired the first shots of the Civil War, this guy Greeley is a fucking traitor. But, of course, never doubt the capacity for negative campaign ads, especially in the Gilded Age and the Reconstruction.
Yeah,
I mean, it's where you get some truly ridiculous shit.
Doesn't it start this whole trend of rehashing the Civil War every election for a while?
Yeah, they're going to do it for a few years. By the time you get to the mid-1880s, it's losing its luster, if you will. But yeah, it waved the bloody shirt, if you will, which is popular North and South.
Well, then with Greeley here, he also runs into some personal problems as the campaign wears on, which probably impacted him negatively. He had to break off the campaign trail on October 12th because his wife was ill, and she dies October 30th. He's in deep despair. Then he gets the election results, and it's also looking really bad for him. In September and October, there's some early elections. All of them go to Grant, or Grant's party, the Republicans. And then Grant crushes him on Election Day. We'll circle back to that. Then Greeley dies before the Electoral College meets, and then we have a really weird-ass Electoral College scenario where the voters for Greeley have to go somewhere, and they just disperse to the 7 wins.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, his campaign's actually interesting at the end, but only because he dies randomly before the Electoral College meets in late November.
Huh.
Yeah, but his ending's pretty sad. His wife dies, he loses an election pretty handily, then he dies a few days later, so it's kind of a worst-case scenario.
Damn.
But to
I remember hearing
the defeat in perspective.
I remember hearing about him dying, but I never looked into the Electoral College thing. That's pretty messed up.
Yeah, so he only won 3 Electoral College votes because most of the ones he would have won went to random candidates as a protest. He lost the popular vote 55.6 to 43.8, which if you think about the context of Grant being as corrupt as he was, is pretty bad.
Although, to be fair, the Grant corruption stuff really comes into its own in the second term.
Doesn't Grant get a little deeper into the bottle in the second term?
I can't speak to that part, actually. So no, I no opinion on that one. All right.
All right. So let's see. Where does Greeley win? He lost Arkansas and Louisiana to Grant, although those results were thrown out for irregularities. But then Mississippi and Texas counted, and then Greeley won Georgia, but it was thrown out because of other irregularities.
What a great campaign.
Yeah, no, this was a shit show. A lot of these Gilded Age campaigns, when I read about them, my God, this was chaos. We might be heading into a new Gilded Age politically in that sense, because there's all kinds of speculation now about absentee ballots being counted or not. And that seems very 1870s, 1880s to me.
Oh, no, I think we're very much in the Gilded Age as far as presidencies go. Although I looked at some of these guys who got other electors. You have David Davis. You've looked at this guy's photo. He's got to be the fattest man ever to get an elector.
I haven't seen him. Let's pull up David Davis real fast.
He looks like a monster, dude.
Is he like Baron Harkonnen levels of fat, or what are we talking about here?
Yes, actually, you're right. No, he looks like the Baron Harkonnen.
Oh, yeah, you're right. He does, kind of. Actually, he kind of looks like... Oh, here's a better one. Yeah, he kind of looks like Roseanne's husband a little bit. What was his name?
John Goodman?
Yeah, he looks like a fatter John Goodman.
Yeah, much fatter. I mean, this guy, I'm going to quote the George Carlin line. Like, when you look at him, you go like, you're like, how's this guy fuck?
Oh wait, here's a
Like,
big
how
one.
does he do it? Anatomically? How does he do it? Just asking.
Cowgirl,
And,
obviously.
Greeley is a fucking F though.
Yeah.
I mean, poor guy. I feel bad for him, especially the smear campaign against him. But yeah, he's an F.
Yeah, for sure. He was not very impressive. He's also I don't know what the fuck they were thinking putting him on the ticket. I don't get the impression he was all that well going into the whole thing either. I just don't understand the rationale. Terrible
Yeah.
decision. And then the Democrats backing him too. Talk about putting all your money on the wrong horse.